Hello. You haven't seen me in 5 weeks now. Instead of doing yet another video begging for your forgiveness, thanking you for your patience, and promising to try harder in the future, I figured I would tell you why that is that you haven't seen me, and talk a little bit about what I'm doing about it while I make a Halloween skirt. Just a little bit about the skirt before we get started. I just stole the skirt part of this McCall's pattern. This one says 11049, but when I looked it up online and on the pattern itself, it has a different number. So if you're looking for this pattern, you're going to want to look for McCall's M8211. It's a very cute pattern for dresses. I haven't made one yet. That's on the list. An update to the things that go on in my life, I guess. Ever since I can remember, I have struggled to meet deadlines, finish projects, stay organized, get places on time, remember where I put things, and just generally have my shit together. It hasn't really been until recently that I started looking into what might be causing that and if I can do something about it. Up until now, I've been told that I'm lazy, irresponsible, disorganized, and just overall careless. And I believed it for my whole life. I even put a similar sentiment in a recent video.
And if you want to do something, you just have to make it a priority. Stop whining, stop saying all the reasons you can't do it, and just do it. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing that's keeping me from sewing is myself.
I just wasn't trying hard enough. I wasn't pushing myself enough. I wasn't self-disciplined enough. For years, I have been trying to figure out why I was tired all the time. I've been to the doctor. I've had tests run. I've tried some things on my own. About once a year, I post up something on Facebook asking other people if they've had similar problems, what they think it could be, what I might be able to look into. Something has been keeping me from doing the things that I want to do, and I couldn't figure out what it was. This skirt doesn't actually need a lining, but I want to maybe put a little tulle ruffle at the bottom, and that's going to make it itchy, so I'm going to put a lining. And we want it to be just a little bit longer than the skirt. I heard someone say recently that if you want to do something and you can't get yourself to do it, it's not laziness. I went on vacation to Tennessee last year. I had such a hard time getting out of bed every morning. I absolutely wanted to go do all of these fun things, but I couldn't. I had to push myself. And it wasn't easy. I knew right away that this isn't normal. Someone not having the energy or the motivation to do things that they love, like going to a water park, that's not laziness. That's a problem. I'm just gonna move this down so that we get the curve right. Still, I thought that the problem was energy related, so as I have been doing for like the past 10 years, I kept looking into energy related solutions. And I'm just gonna take this piece and trace it for the other two pieces in the lining. And then, of course, we're going to make some pockets for this. I just use a basic pocket pattern that I took from this New Look 6571. But you can find the same outline online if you just Google it, or you can just come up with one of your own. The suggestion that I saw was just to trace your hand. I just have used this one a few times, and I know it's the size that I want, so I go with it. And we're going to make it out of the pumpkin pattern. Thanks in part to the wonders of the internet, with all its tracking cookies and algorithms, it picked up on the fact that certain memes resonated with me. I heart reacted them, shared them, commented on them, saved some of them. The almighty algorithm then showed me a variety of ads and suggested content based on these reactions and based on the newest trendy mental illness. Yes, trendy. Believe me, I hate that that's a thing. But in this case, it helped. It helped me. I'm not self-diagnosing, and I would never recommend that anybody do that. But if this weren't the hot new trendy disorder on the market, then I probably wouldn't have considered it as a solution. That having been said, I am working on getting an official diagnosis and exploring some available treatment options as they may be suggested by a professional. So except for the tool at the bottom, it looks like we have all of our pieces ready to go, so we can start pinning this together. Let's see what it looks like. Bottom line is, I think I have ADHD. Aside from me not having a piece of paper that grants me permission to say without a shadow of a doubt that I have ADHD, I know I have ADHD. I've gone through the symptoms several times. I've asked people close to me, go down through the list, and do you think that this describes me? And I've gotten an affirmative. That just leads me to believe that this is a thing. I never considered ADHD as an option because I wasn't hyperactive. Rather, I always felt tired. And it turns out that fatigue is a symptom of ADHD. I cried when I read that. Emotional sensitivity is also a symptom of ADHD. So let me tell you what the last 5 weeks have looked like. I had a video planned. I started filming before I went on vacation. There were some things that I needed to order, and when I got back from vacation, they weren't here yet. On top of having to wait for them to arrive, I didn't have enough time when I got home to be able to finish the video anyway. Decided I should do a sewing video. So I started filming a new video with the idea that I could finish it in one day, edit it the next day, and meet my deadline just barely. It might be midnight when it comes out. It counts, I guess, right? Well, I didn't finish the video that day. Then the next day, I had other things that I had to do, so I wasn't able to finish it that day. The following day, my dog came down with hives. Like I said, we had gone on vacation, and my dog has severe separation anxiety. He really has all, just like general anxiety. He stressed himself out from us being gone and broke out in hives. Instead of filming, I just spent the whole day with him that day. And honestly, I was set to be somewhere anyway, so it's not like I would have been filming that day anyway. So then, I filmed a new video. A new video. It was a talking video, but it would be better than nothing, right? And at least I could film from the couch so that I could snuggle with my little man while he recovered. And I planned to finish it the next day on Labor Day. Talking videos don't take as long to edit as sewing videos. It wasn't an unrealistic goal, but unfortunately, I didn't have it in me to do it that day. And later that night, I ended up taking my dog to the ER because his hives did not get better, and I was having a hard time getting him to take Benadryl. So we had to take him to the ER so that he could get a shot of Benadryl. Now I had 2 videos, one finished that I could work with, or I could film a different one, or finish one of the other 2 that were already in the works before these 2 that I filmed. And I kept going back and forth. A sewing video, or a quick video just to get something out there. Start a new one, or use one that I already have. I wasn't happy with the quick one that I filmed. It wasn't very funny, it wasn't educational, and it wasn't a sewing video. And the sewing video that I started seemed daunting to complete. I don't know why, but it did. It just seemed like a big job. And I knew that starting a new one wasn't going to be any easier. That merry-go-round of thought went around like this for the next 2 weeks. And every Saturday I would think about how I didn't have a video and was no closer to having one. And every weekend would end before I knew it. Really, I spent most of the last 3 weeks beating myself up over not finishing a video. And that isn't fun for anyone. It also doesn't work. So if you're someone who does that, just keep that in mind. That if beating yourself up worked, it would have worked by now. For a while, I just kept thinking, once I have a diagnosis, things will be different. Once I start therapy, once I'm properly medicated. But there's no guarantee that those things are ever going to happen. Especially the medication. It wasn't until the other night that I realized that I need to start now. Use the information that I have, try things, take note of what's worked and what I'd like to try. It isn't going to be easy, and I'm always going to have to try harder than other people to accomplish the same things. I also learned that I'm just never going to be able to push myself as much as other people can. My main obstacle is executive dysfunction. It's what keeps me from doing the things that I want to do. There's little tips that you can use to get more out of a neurodivergent brain, but at the end of the day, a damaged or underdeveloped executive function just isn't going to be able to handle as much. Most of our skirt is done. The main parts of the skirt, it does get gathered a little bit and then goes around, and it really doesn't feel like there's going to be a lot of room for gather. I mean, we'll see. We still have to put the lining together, and then we'll put them together when we gather it. And I have to figure out what I'm doing for a waistband. It's probably just going to be, well, I guess black would be a better option, but I don't want to use the lining material. I probably have black cotton fabric floating around here somewhere that I could use. So let's get the lining together. So, what's the plan? I started by writing down everything that I've tried that has worked. Drinking water and exercising first thing in the morning are big ones. Staggering my caffeine, I haven't done that in a while, but that worked while I was doing it. Getting a good night's sleep, always the plan. Forever the plan. And eating right, of course. You know, all the things that usually make you feel better. I also found that meditation helps, and forcing myself to focus on one thing at a time, like not playing video games while I watch TV and just watching TV. I have always been on the ball with to-do lists, but lately I've second guessed the things that I've put on them, and I have overloaded them, so there's really no way I can get everything done, and it just made them completely ineffective. I want to try a couple of strategies to make them work for me again. I want to pick one big thing a week to focus on and employ my boyfriend as an accountability partner. No punishments, only rewards, and the reward's probably going to be ice cream. And that would help with the big list items that go undone. If you're wondering what I'm doing, you can use a long stitch on your machine, but the longest stitch on my machine isn't long enough, in my opinion. So whenever I do a basting stitch for a gathering, I do it by hand. It usually doesn't take long. It's pretty mindless work, so you can do other things while you're doing it. Another strategy I want to try is randomizing things. Rather than spend my whole day debating on what I should get done first and ending the day with more on my to-do list than when I started, I can write down everything that needs doing and roll a die to choose what to do. I want to go back to staggering my caffeine, because that really did work for me, but I got greedy with it. What I used to do is go all week with little to no caffeine, and then on Sunday I would get a Dunkin' frozen coffee, which is just under 500 milligrams of caffeine, and I would get everything done on that day. And it worked really well. But I got greedy and I wanted more productive days until I was just drinking caffeine every day. And the result was, doesn't affect me as much. For this to work, and really, I mean, even if it doesn't, I have to decrease my weekday workload. If I expect only one thing from myself every night, instead of the 3 to 4 hour workload that I have been expecting, I can actually meet my expectations and get things done without overdoing it. So I just spent a significant amount of time looking for black fabric that I could use for a waistband, because I wanted to make it long so it can tie in the back rather than using like a hook and eye enclosure. I might still use a hook and eye enclosure, but hook and eye closure. I used this to measure because I already knew that this was long enough from the last dress that I did when I thought about using this. I looked all over for black fabric and all I found was this scrap that it is badly in need of a wash. I'll probably just toss it in the dryer. But we're gonna see if we can make this work. I find it really hard to believe that I don't have any black. I went through all my stuff, and this was the only black fabric that I could find. This is the plan. We're just gonna cut 2 strips this size. Our waistband's gonna be about half the size. It's not gonna be a very big waistband, but that is okay. And this is the point where I want to make sure I'm not cutting my microphone string. Microphone string. Yes, that's what it's called. Way to go. Very technical term. Hi. Hi. Yeah? Were you woofing? Yeah, I know, I heard. There's one side. And we'll just see if we can squeeze another. Now I'm thinking, I don't really want a seam in the front, right? Yeah, I gotta figure this out. I'm thinking that the first step here is gonna be to sew these together. I'm gonna iron them and hopefully that'll get some of the dirt off. It's not really dirt, it's just threads and dog hair and stuff that you generally don't want on your clothes. Start there, see what it looks like, and we'll just try and figure out where we can put the seam. Okay. Now we're getting down to the nitty gritty. Here's our skirt. Looking good so far. And this is how it's gonna gather. We want to even it out around my waist. I was gonna do that with this, but then I thought just now that's a dumb idea. I think a better idea would be to take our waistband, which I'm gonna put this in the front because I have an idea for it that I may or may not do at the end. I might add it later, so if I add it later, it'll probably end up being on Instagram rather than on YouTube. But if I just measure it out this way, I think, I do want it to be snug because it's going to have a zipper. We want to make sure that it fits, that it's not loose at all because it'll have weight on it once we get the skirt attached. So let me just mark these spots. There we go. And we'll just even it out along there. Going back to what I was saying about ADHD, executive function, all that. That is, in a nutshell, what I have planned so far. The reason I'm sharing this is because I don't think I'm alone. Maybe you've already been diagnosed, not necessarily ADHD, but some other problem with executive dysfunction. Maybe you aren't in a place to be able to get a diagnosis, or just can't seem to remember to make an appointment. Whatever the case may be, I think there's a lot of us. I actually found a Facebook group specifically for ADHD crafting, and it's great. People post projects they've finished, crafts they've just started and gotten into, little hacks to help them overcome the speed bumps that keep us from doing the thing. It's really helpful to see others that are struggling too and haven't given up. And it's super helpful to talk to people who understand what executive dysfunction is. We all have lapses in motivation, but I'll go without eating or get out of bed late enough to be significantly late to work. Typically, a fully developed executive function prevents those things from happening without extraneous circumstances. I was actually diagnosed with depression as a teenager because of those same symptoms. For the past 7 years, I haven't been depressed, so I've been really confused as to why I still have those symptoms. This is not going to be gathered. Like, at all. You see it? Oh boy. I mean, there's a little bit of gather here. We can make some, but not much. I haven't touched this in nearly a month now. I got to a point where I realized the pattern that I used was far too small, and the result was not the shape I was going for. At this point, I know that I am not going to finish the skirt and the video in time for Halloween 2022. And that isn't a great feeling. It was really important to me that I get this video out to you one way or another because I know that other people share in my suffering. I've talked your ear off about my brain and what it has burdened me with, and I hope that someone is watching this and having their own epiphany moment. I have been trying to figure out what's wrong with me for a long time. And I think I finally found it. That in itself is a great feeling. I know it isn't the end of the journey, not by a long shot, but at least I know what road to walk on now. If you are interested in aesthetic sewing content and probably some more about sewing with executive dysfunction, please subscribe to this channel. I appreciate all of you that have hung in there these last couple months, and I look forward to bringing you exciting new content to enjoy in the future. Until next time.